Hello and welcome to Indus News, live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. In occupied Kashmir, veteran Hurriyat leader Sayyid Ali Gilani has passed away at the age of 92 in Srinagar. Large contingents of Indian police and paramilitary troops have been deployed outside Gilani's home. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan says Gilani remained resolute for the Kashmir cause despite torture by Indian forces. Meanwhile, Pakistani flag will fly at half-mast today as the nation observes a day of official mourning. The US military says it is a possibility that they coordinate with the Taliban in their shared battle against ISIS Khorasan. Top US General Mark Milley made these remarks alongside Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in their first press conference since the last troops left Afghanistan. Milley said it's unclear whether the Taliban changed from the ruthless group that they once were. President Joe Biden says the U.S. remains firmly committed to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity in the face of Russian aggression. At a White House meeting, Biden assured Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky his support for their Euro-Atlantic aspirations. After the meeting, Zelensky told reporters that the U.S. president personally supports Ukraine's membership of NATO. India has reported the biggest single-day rise in COVID-19 infections with over 47,000 tested positive overnight. Mexico's daily COVID-19 cases have spiked again as it logged over 1,100 fatalities and more than 17,000 infections overnight. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 89 more people lost their lives to the virus and more than 4,100 tested positive in the last 24 hours. Globally, the coronavirus caseload has surpassed 218 million, while the death toll is more than 4.5 million. In football, Cristiano Ronaldo breaks the world record for most goals scored in men's international football with 110 goals. The 36-year-old scored 2 goals for Portugal in their dramatic 2-1 World Cup qualifying win over the Republic of Ireland. Ali Daei, who scored 109 goals for Iran between 1993 and 2006, helped the record which Ronaldo equalled against France at Euro 2020. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, in occupied Kashmir, veteran Hurriyat leader Sayyid Ali Gilani has passed away at the age of 92 in Srinagar. Gilani had been under house arrest for the last many years. Sayyid Ali Gilani was a staunch opponent of India's occupation of Jammu and Kashmir. He stood for Kashmiri's struggle for their right to self-determination. Indian authorities have imposed a security clampdown in the occupied valley following his death. Troops put up barbed wire and barricades on roads leading to Gilani's house. Police said no one in the Kashmir Valley will be allowed to leave their homes and only relatives will be allowed to visit the residence of Sayyid Ali Gilani. Thousands of security forces are immediately deployed and mobile internet services are cut across the area. Also, Pakistan is observing a mourning day over the demise of Kashmiri leader Sayyid Ali Gilani. President Arif Alvi was among the first to pay tribute to the freedom fighter. Pakistan's President Dr. Arif Alvi said, occupied Kashmir has lost the most iconic leader today and prayed for the strength for Gilani's family. Prime Minister Imran Khan said, Gilani had struggled all his life for his people and their right to self-determination. He suffered incarceration and torture by the occupying Indian state, but remained resolute. Gilani's lifelong sacrifices Pakistan's army chief said Gilani's lifelong sacrifices and struggle symbolize the indomitable resolve of Kashmiris against Indian occupation. General Qamar Javed Bajwa said the leader's mission will live on until the people of occupied Kashmir win their right to self-determination. Mishal Hussain Malik, human rights activist and the wife of Kashmiri leader Yasin Malik, also lauded Gilani's lifelong struggle for the people of occupied Kashmir.
He was a man of principles, a man who believed in steadfastness, who believed in liberty and freedom, and never did he for a moment stir away from his committed stance of liberation. And today, after losing him, we are all in a state of despair and mourning. And I pray to Allah Almighty to grant him the highest positions in Jannah, in heaven. And inshallah ta'ala, a day will come when his sacrifices will bear fruit. Though he left us too soon, with an unfinished dream of a free Kashmir, but a day will come inshallah, when all these struggles will bear fruit. But we will forever miss you, and we will forever follow the path and the guidance that you've given us. You are that beacon of light, that beacon of hope, and beacon of guidance. May Allah Ta'ala give patience to your family to bear this colossal, irreparable loss.
Pakistan's flag will fly at half-mast today as the nation observes a day of official mourning. Well, now we have with us Advocate Parvez Ahmed, Executive Member of All Parties Hurriyat Conference from Islamabad. Mr. Parvez Ahmed, thank you for your time now. Mr. Ahmed, how do you see veteran Kashmiri leader Sayyid Ali Gilani's lifelong struggle for the Kashmiris' right to self-determination?
Thank you very much. It's a very bad day for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and very unfortunate. And I'm highly thankful to Indus News when complete media gags in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Landlines have been put off, internet suspended, and people have been barred from coming out of their homes, and curfew has been imposed. So Gilani Saab's whole life is, we can say, the full of struggle. Since he started his political career, he started with this slogan that we have to accede with the state of Pakistan, and the popular slogan, which is in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, when any person dies, any person is being martyred by the by Indian forces, the slogan is raised up, we are Pakistanis and Pakistan is ours. This slogan has been introduced by Sayyid Ali Gilani. You can say that Sayyid Ali Gilani was living Pakistan in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and this strong voice has been silenced. I can say because he was put in incarceration, he was put in house arrest for the last 10 years. Continuously, he was not given access to any doctor or any medical team, which accelerated his death. But I can tell you with authority that Gilani Saab's personality has influenced almost all Kashmiris, and especially the youth. It was Sayyid Ali Gilani who by his speeches, by his motivation, by his persuasion, brought the youth of occupied Jammu and Kashmir behind this movement. So it is a great loss to the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
Rightly said, Mr. Ahmed. I mean, even on this day, we are seeing the Indian terrorist Hindutva-led forces surrounding his house now. India has deployed large contingents of police and paramilitary troops outside Sayyid Ali Gilani's home. What resistance New Delhi can face in occupied Kashmir after his death in house arrest?
No, exactly what I want to tell. Yesterday, when this news spread that Sayyid Ali Gilani has passed away, the moment the red alert was issued by the government of India, knowing the fact that people of Jammu and Kashmir have a great love for their leader, because Sayyid Ali Gilani was a symbol of resistance and iconic leader of Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Before this, India, few months before, just spread a rumor that Sayyid Ali Gilani was no more, and they were just testing the nerves of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, how people of Jammu and Kashmir will react. And today, when they came to know that Sayyid Ali Gilani has passed it, the first thing which they did, that they just barricaded the roads, and all the armed forces in the barracks came on the streets, and every nook and corner of the Kashmir was blocked. So the people were not even allowed to go to the mosques, because we have seen yesterday the youth coming from their homes and making the announcements in different mosques. These mosques were raided. So India was knowing that the dead Gilani will be more dangerous for them. So this is the reason that they have imposed a strict curfew in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. But I will assure you that definitely there will be resistance despite this curfew, because I have seen, I was watching the Facebook and Twitter, the couple of statements have been issued yesterday before his death by a couple of people, by youth, that they will come out from their homes and they will definitely go to Mazar-e-Shohada, although he was not buried in Mazar-e-Shohada, and a call has been already given by Al-Qadis Hurriyat Conference that people should come tomorrow on Friday. People should come out of their homes and they should attend the Mazar-e-Shohada. They should offer the prayers for Mazar there. And in Islamabad at Faisal Mosque, the Kashmiris and the Pakistanis, the Kashmiris living in Islamabad and Rawalpindi and all other walks of the people from all walks of their life, they will be attending tomorrow's funeral. That will be in absentia. We are going to offer the prayers at Faisal Mosque. So what I mean to say that India was knowing that, because India has kept Sayyid Ali Gilani in house arrest for the last 10 years, knowing the fact that if Sayyid Ali Gilani will be given a little space and he will be allowed to come out of his home, then definitely there will be a major change in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, because people have great love for Sayyid Ali Gilani, and just to see his glimpses, the people were always waiting outside his house, but although they were never allowed to see Sayyid Ali Gilani. So Sayyid Ali Gilani is, although it is a big loss to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but it will strengthen the resolve of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They will carry forward the mission, the slogan which has been given by Sayyid Ali Gilani, and definitely I hope in near future the movement will get more and more momentum against India.
Right now, Mr. Ahmed, also tell us how much the Kashmiris movement for freedom will be affected after Gilani's death.
No, surely there is definitely it will make effect, but it will not make, because the major problem at this time is that there is a leadership vacuum in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Although India dubs it leadership crisis, but it is a vacuum because the towering leadership of the Jammu and Kashmir is behind the bars. We have Masarat Alam, we have Shabir Ahmad Shah, Asiya Andrabi, and others. They are in Indian jails, and they are being forced by India to sign an agreement that if they will be released, they will not take part in the political movement of Jammu and Kashmir. Although there is a hard time has come to the people of Jammu and Kashmir, but I'm sure that people of the youth of Jammu and Kashmir, especially the second tier, has been trained by Sayyid Ali Gilani. It will not make more difference, but we have to take the serious measures, and all parties Hurriyat conferences assembling here as well as in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and within a day or two we will definitely give our line of action how to tackle the situation.
Right. Now, also, lastly, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan has announced a day of national mourning. How do you see Pakistan's support for the Kashmiri people?
No, Sayyid Ali Gilani was most respectable leader in Pakistan, because last year Pakistan gave Sayyid Ali Gilani Hilal-e-Imtiyaz, one of the highest awards of the Pakistan. And Sayyid Ali Gilani was a credible voice in Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, who always in his life promoted status accession with the state of Pakistan. So the Pakistan in this time is a very crucial time for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, because they have lost a symbolic leader, a towering leader of Jammu and Kashmir. So at this time, it is very encouraging that that the state of Pakistan has announced mourning on the side of Ali Gilani. The government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir has also announced that they will offer this Fateh in Abyssinia. So it is very encouraging, and at this time the Pakistan has to stand with us, because at this time we are very, very, very sad. The people of Jammu and Kashmir, on one hand, they have lost their great leader, and on the second hand, the Indian repression is there, and people are not coming out of their homes. So we are thankful to Pakistan. They have showed their concern, and they have always honored Sayyid Ali Gilani's contributions to the freedom movement of Jammu and Kashmir.
Right now, Advocate Parvez Ahmed, Executive Member of All Parties Hurriyat Conference, thank you for talking to Indus News. Well, now the US military says there is a possibility that they coordinate with the Taliban in their shared battle against ISIS Khorasan. Top US General Mark Milley made these remarks alongside Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in their first press conference since the last troops left Afghanistan. Details in this report. Despite the coordination with Taliban during evacuations from Kabul, US officials sought to downplay the possibility of working with the group. Milley said going forward, the cooperation is possible, but it is unclear whether the Taliban change from the ruthless group that they once were. Secretary Austin also said he would not want to make any predictions on future cooperation. However, earlier the Democratic chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Gregory Meek, said the US recognition of the Taliban is possible. The European Union official also said Brussels will need to engage with the Taliban, but it will not rush into formally recognizing the group. Meanwhile, British Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said the UK had been caught out and surprised by the scale and speed of the fall of Kabul. Raab said an assessment by the Joint Intelligence Committee indicated that Kabul would remain safe until next year. Meanwhile, Afghanistan's new rulers are expected to announce a new government today. Yesterday, a member of the Taliban's Cultural Commission, Anamullah Samangani, said the new government has been finalized. He confirmed that the group's supreme leader, Hibatullah Akhundzada, will be the top authority in the country. Samangani also reported heavy casualties in Panjshir on the Taliban as well as resistance side. Earlier, senior Taliban leader Amir Khan Muttaqi called on the rebels to put down their weapons. Meanwhile, former Afghan Vice President Amrullah Saleh said the Panjshir resistance will defend the rights of all Afghan citizens. This comes as the UN humanitarian coordinator in Afghanistan warned that the country could face a food crisis within a month, leaving 1 out of 3 people hungry. Now for more on this, we are joined by Fahad Masood, international security analyst. Thank you for your time, Fahad. Now, Fahad, tell us, the US military says there is a possibility that they will coordinate with the Taliban in their shared battle against ISIS Khorasan. Now, do you think this potential coalition would be effective and last for a long time?
I believe it's a possibility. Considering the timeline where we stand today, it is critical for Taliban to gain acceptability from the international arena. There can be no greater possibility or greater chance for them to do this if they align themselves with the Americans. And ISIS Khorasan is a mutual enemy as we understand it now. So it will be a win-win for both. The Biden administration wants an exit from the situation that they've gotten themselves into, and they want this thing to go away. So it will be a win-win both ways. Yes, it is possible. Long term, I have my doubts on that.
Right, Fahad, also tell us, the Taliban have launched their own operation against the National Resistance Front in the Panjshir Valley. Now, how much resistance can the Taliban fighters face there?
Resistance. Well, Panjshir is a cupped valley. It is closed from one end, open from the other. the Masood clan and everybody who is there, let me remind you that it is not only the clan itself. The remnants of NDS, the remnants of RAW, and ISIS Khorasan are mixed into against a mutual enemy, which is the Taliban. So they are looking forward and they will continue to forge resistance. How long will it take? I don't believe too long, because being a valley which is close from one end, they will not have any support that's coming across from the international players, as well as we've discussed before. Taliban and the Biden administration are looking to form a coalition against this Panjshir Valley. So a reality is it may take, in my humble opinion, nothing more than a week. And Masood himself, he's mentioned very candidly the only way he will admit or lower weapons against the Taliban is one condition only, that there is a coalition government that takes place at Kabul. Taliban are already willing for it, so I believe it will simmer down sooner than later.
Right, lastly, Fahad, tell us, as Afghanistan was being taken over by the Taliban, Russia started its military drills along with other neighboring countries. What is the purpose of these military drills and how can they benefit Moscow?
Oh, well, they are aligned as per timeline with this Kabul exit of the West and the Taliban takeover. But I would rather say the Russians are looking to secure their borders. They want to ensure that they don't run into a problem of having too many refugees coming across, and in the bargain, ensuring also that there is military presence there. So they are ensuring their own security. I don't believe there's any alignment or any negative intent, as we call it, for that move. Putin has mentioned on different occasions that they will be willing to admit, or for that matter, look into the possibility of having Taliban as the primary points of contact in Afghanistan, and that is how it is. So I don't believe there is too much of an issue there.
Right, Fahad Masood, international security analyst, thank you for talking to Indus News. Thank you very much. Now moving on, President Joe Biden says the U.S. remains firmly committed to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity against Russian aggression. Biden made the remarks during a meeting with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. Biden assured Zelensky of his support for their Euro-Atlantic aspirations. The two sides also discussed Russia's Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, which Ukraine opposes. Meanwhile, Zelensky said Biden personally supports Ukraine's membership of the NATO. But the White House says Kyiv needs to reform its defense and law sectors to meet the NATO membership standards. The U.S. has also announced $60 million in new security aid to Ukraine to counter Russian aggression. France and Germany have urged Iran to return rapidly to negotiations to revive the 2015 nuclear deal. In a phone call with his Iranian counterpart, French Foreign Minister underlined the importance of an immediate resumption of talks. A French Foreign Ministry statement says Jean-Yves Le Drian repeated his concern on Iran's nuclear activities. Iran's foreign minister said U.S.'s illegal measures and Europe's inaction on it caused unfavorable situation surrounding the talks. Earlier, Germany also raised pressure on Tehran, asking it to resume talks as soon as possible. The seventh round of the negotiations was halted for the presidential elections and a subsequent change of administration in Iran. Earlier this week, Iran's Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian said the talks might resume in 2 to 3 months. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have wounded a number of anti-blockade Palestinian protesters in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media said the soldiers fired live rounds and high-velocity gas bombs at protesters near the border fence. They said dozens of protesters also suffered the effects of tear gas inhalation in addition to cuts and bruises. In West Bank, illegal Israeli settlers backed by the police stormed the courtyards of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Palestinians suffocated on the tear gas as Israeli forces resorted to violence during a raid on towns in Jenin city. Meanwhile, Tel Aviv said US plans to reopen its consulate in Jerusalem is a bad idea and could destabilize the Israeli government. The consulate, located in occupied East Jerusalem, has long served as an autonomous office that oversees US-Palestine diplomatic relations. Now we'll take you live. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi is addressing.
मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि सैयद अली गिलानी साहब आज हम में मौजूद नहीं हैं, लेकिन उनकी महक जो है पूरी वादी में, कश्मीर की वादी में हमेशा वो उनकी महक रहेगी। उनकी अज़मत, उनका किरदार, उनकी इस्तेकामत एक दास्तान है, मशहूर है, और वो कश्मीरी जो इस जद्दोजहद में सरे फहरिस्त हैं, उनके लिए उन्होंने कुछ रहनुमा असूल तय कर दिए हैं। मुझे यकीन है कि नौजवान नस्ल तजदीद अहद करेगी और उस मिशन को जारी रखेगी।
And the youth will continue.
With this, let me revert to what you have organized today, Azad Sahab. Let me begin by congratulating the host for organizing a session on such an important issue. We are witnessing momentous events in our neighborhood which have far-reaching implications for the region and the international community as a whole. The situation demands following a carefully calibrated policy to avoid pitfalls and achieve what we have been pursuing for the last many years: a stable, peaceful and prosperous Afghanistan. Before I highlight the salient points of our policy on Afghanistan, a few comments on the current situation will give an idea on our policy. The international coalition pursued a military approach to achieve peace in Afghanistan for 2 decades, which I don't think was based on ground realities. Insistence on military solution brought the political process to a head. The Doha peace agreement brought a new hope for the Afghanistan leaders. Unfortunately, intra-Afghan negotiations made little headway. The absence of an Afghan-led and Afghan-owned negotiated political settlement, coupled with withdrawal of international forces, created a whole new set of challenges and opportunities for Afghan leadership. The lack of resistance by the Afghan security forces and the speed of Taliban's takeover of Kabul have surprised the international community. Ladies and gentlemen, since taking over, Taliban have made a series of announcements on general amnesty, protection of women's rights, freedom of speech, employment and access to education, and openness to an inclusive political dispensation. Taliban are in talks with Afghan leaders on the future political setup. We wish them success. However, the situation as it stands today is fragile. The unfortunate loss of more than 170 lives in 2 dastardly attacks by ISIS near Kabul airport is a grim reminder of fragility of situation. More than ever, The situation demands Afghan leaders to exhibit wisdom. It also requires sustained engagement by international community as shared responsibility to help Afghanistan on its path to peace, stability and prosperity. Failure is no option. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan was the only country that consistently maintained that there was no military solution to the Afghan conflict. Pakistan, with its firm belief in a negotiated political settlement, supported the US-Taliban direct talks leading to intra-Afghan negotiations. We also continue to voice that the withdrawal of international forces should have proceeded in tandem with progress in the intra-Afghan negotiations. We also supported a responsible and orderly withdrawal to ensure smooth transition. We have suffered the most after Afghanistan, both in terms of casualties and huge loss to the economy. No other country has a greater interest in peace and stability in Afghanistan than Pakistan. Continuation of conflict and instability in Afghanistan is certainly not in our interest. We consider all segments of Afghan society important in the overall construct of Afghanistan. Every Afghan, be it from Tajik community, Uzbek or Turkmen or Pashtun, they all are part of a beautiful mosaic. We reached out to all ethnic communities to reiterate our support to a united and peaceful Afghanistan. In the present circumstance, we have continued our support for an inclusive setup in Afghanistan as the best way forward. We consider Taliban's announcements positive and encouraging. The Afghan leadership should take the responsibility of delivering on the demands of the Afghan people, reconcile their differences and achieve a negotiated political solution, a long cherished objective. Inclusive setup is important for Taliban to gain people's confidence and international acceptability. It will open new vistas of cooperation at regional and international level. It will help realize our common objective of a region free from scourge of terrorism, strongly linked with the international community through a web of connectivity projects. Given our renewed focus on geoeconomics, we feel that the dividends of regional connectivity cannot be realized without enduring peace in Afghanistan. To achieve the above, it is extremely important for the international community to remain engaged with Afghanistan. We believe that the biggest opportunity right now is convergence of the international community on the need of durable peace and stability in Afghanistan. A sustained engagement will ensure steady transition and avoid repeat of the 1990s. Afghan people must not be abandoned at this crucial stage. Pakistan will continue to play the role of a facilitator. However, our role must not be misconstrued as that of a guarantor. Ladies and gentlemen, let me...
Well, you were watching Shah Mahmood Qureshi, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, addressing a think tank in Islamabad, and he once again repeated Pakistan's position over the Afghanistan issue, and that is Pakistan wants to see a stable and peaceful Afghanistan. Now, moving on with our news stories, India has reported over 47,000 new COVID-19 cases, its biggest single-day rise in 2 months. While Mexico logged nearly 1,200 daily deaths and more than 17,000 infections. Globally, the coronavirus death toll is over 4.5 million, while the caseload has surpassed 218 million. More details about the pandemic in this report. A new study has shown that being fully vaccinated against COVID-19 not only cuts the risk of catching it, but also of an infection turning into long COVID. It shows that in the minority of people who get COVID despite 2 jabs, the odds of developing symptoms lasting longer than 4 weeks are cut by 50%. But unfortunately, the gaps in vaccination rates in rich and poor countries continue to widen. Amid that, a new report suggests the US has thrown away at least 15.1 million doses of vaccine since March 1st. Meanwhile, Cuba says it plans to vaccinate children aged 2 to 18 with its domestically developed vaccine. In Europe, Spain says it has achieved its goal for August to fully vaccinate 70% of its population.
Tenemos más de 33 millones.
We have more than 33 million, to be exact 33.3 million people fully vaccinated. We have not yet reached the final goal, but obviously this is a very important intermediate goal. That means we have a broad vaccination coverage, and that puts Spain as a world reference.
The United Kingdom says about 500,000 severely immunosuppressed people in the country will be offered a 3rd vaccine dose. This comes as the European Centre for Disease Prevention said there is no urgent need of booster doses to fully vaccinated people. The World Health Organization also said well-vaccinated countries should prioritize COVAX over booster shots.
First, we call on countries that have contracted high volumes of vaccines to swap near-term delivery schedules with COVAX and the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust, or Evac. Second, we call on vaccine manufacturers to immediately prioritize and fulfill their contracts to COVAX and Evac, and to provide regular, clear supply forecasts.
The WHO has launched a global data hub in Berlin to analyze information on emerging pandemic threats, filling the gaps exposed by COVID-19. Meanwhile, Moderna says it is working with Japan to recall 3 vaccine batches. Earlier, it was revealed that contaminants found in vials were particles of stainless steel. However, the Japanese Health Ministry said it did not expect that this would pose health risks. In Australia, doctors warn the hospitals are not ready to cope with the government's reopening plans, even with higher vaccination rates. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, the coronavirus has claimed 89 more lives over the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the death toll has reached 25,978. The ministry said more than 4,100 tested positive for the virus overnight. It said the caseload has exceeded 1.16 million, while over 1,048,000 have recovered. Nearly 92,000 people are currently suffering from the disease in Pakistan. The ministry says more than 4,700 of them are in critical condition. Meanwhile, the number of people fully vaccinated in the country has surpassed 18 million. Now, at least 4 civilians have been killed in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo when militants ambushed a convoy and set fire to the vehicles. Authorities said around 80 people were taken hostages in attack on convoy of about 100 vehicles. They said the convoy was traveling with army protection on the road between the cities of Benai and Butembo. They said army has freed more than 50 of the hostages in Ituri province, and operations are underway to recover the remaining captives. They said Ugandan terrorist group named Allied Democratic Forces carried out the attack. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, gunmen have kidnapped 73 students after storming a high school in the northwestern state of Zamfara. In a statement, the police said rescue teams are working with the military to try to release the students. Officials said nighttime road travel restrictions were imposed in the state and schools were temporarily closed. This is the latest incident in a spree of mass abductions in the region. Kidnapping for ransom by armed gangs, locally known as bandits, has become a grim trend in northwest and central Nigeria. More than 1,000 students have been abducted this year alone, most of them later released. Now, China has warned the US that their strained relations could undermine the mutual efforts against global warming. Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks during a virtual meeting with US climate envoy John Kerry. He said cooperation on climate change cannot be separated from the broader relationship. Wang called on Washington to take steps to improve ties. He added the US should stop regarding China as a threat and adversary. For his part, Washington's climate envoy encouraged Beijing to do more to reduce emissions. In a statement, the State Department said Kerry affirmed the US's commitment to cooperate with the world against the climate crisis. Now, in the US, a state of emergency has been issued in New York City after rains from the remnants of Hurricane Ida lashed the East Coast. Officials say the storm spawned at least one tornado and caused heavy flooding. Authorities suspended all train services due to the severe weather, trapping commuters stuck between stations. The city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, told the people to stay off roads and subways. The National Weather Service recorded 3.15 inches of rain in New York Central Park in an hour, the most ever logged in the past. Meanwhile, New Jersey's Governor Phil Murphy has also declared a state of emergency. A catastrophic tornado ripped apart at least 9 homes in the community of Mullica Hill in the state. Now, shares in the Asia-Pacific are trading mixed as Australia reported a higher than expected trade surplus in July. Soft US jobs data also fueled optimism. The Federal Reserve might feel less pressure to wind down stimulus. Mainland China's Shanghai Composite was up by more than 0.5%. The Nikkei 225 in Japan gained over 0.25%. South Korea's Kospi dipped close to 1%, leading the regional losses. Australia's ASX 200 also shed more than 0.5%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng was down marginally. With that, we come to the end of this news bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.